everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have 8 book recommendations that will get you into that fall vibe, transitioning into October, which is spooky season, and then even later into winter, when we all want to escape to a whole different world, nestle up with a good cup of coffee or tea, get in our blankets and just kind of escape the world because it is cold and nasty outside. So I have some book recommendations for you. But before we get into the video, please make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure that you always leave me comments below on any of the books that you see here or any recommendations that you think I should read or look into. Also, make sure that you click the link in the description box below for my Patreon account. Head on over there. We are currently having our book club read, which is The Coven by Harper L. Woods. Definitely come on over there, talk with us, get some exclusive content, even some sprints that are going to be coming up, and so much more. Also, if you see any books that I unhaul or any special editions that, you would like to get your hands on that maybe I do get rid of, I also have my Pango Books account linked below as well if you'd like to go shop that. So with all of that information out of the way, let's get into all of the book recommendations that I have for you for this upcoming fall season. So the first book, like I said, I think about fantasy. I think about escaping to a new world. Books that are very long, very in-depth, world building, different things like that. So I have a lot of fantasy on here, but I have a whole vast array of different fantasy depending on what you like. So the first one I have is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Of course, this earlier this year was taking the whole internet by storm. It is following Aurea, who is the daughter of the Nightborn King, and she ends up getting into a competition, trying to become like his equal or share power with him. It's a vampire world. The vampires are ruthless. They're unforgiving. So definitely check trigger warnings before you go into here because there is a lot of gore and such with that. But if you like a good, fast-paced fantasy that does have a romance subplot, but the romance isn't the focal point, definitely pick this up. It is wonderful. It's a duet. There is going to be 6 books in the series, and it's going to be 3 different duets. So 2 books from each area, which would be the Nightborn realm, the Bloodborne, and I can't remember what the third one is. But anyway, 3 different duets following 3 different characters. So definitely check this out if you want a good vampire, fantasy, paranormal, romance book. You would definitely love it, and it's definitely going to get you into the spooky vibes because vampires being ruthless kind of gives you that horror feeling, especially whenever there's gore involved. So definitely pick this one up. The next one that I have for you, if you don't really like vampires, if you do like vampires, but you don't want them to be the focal point, we have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. So you are following our female main character. I don't remember what her name is. You guys know I'm terrible with names. But anyway, she is a witch, and she calls forth this book from the library that nobody has ever been able to call forth before, and all these creatures and everything are wanting to get their hands on it, and in comes Matthew. I do know the male character. Matthew, who is a vampire, is, kind of protective of our female main character, and it is following them as they traverse this world. There is time travel in here, which is, it's not as gory or anything like that like the previous book, but it definitely will give you those fall vibes, especially whenever you are dealing with witches and the past with witches, vampires, and a whole slew of other characters. So if you like a good witch story, a good world building story where, you are going into different times, definitely pick this one up. It definitely is a good read. And then whenever you finish it, you can go watch the TV show that is out. So you would like that as well. The next one is, if you don't want something that is dense or gory or anything like that, but you want a lighthearted read, but something that gets you into the fall vibes, definitely pick up Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw. This is like a continuation of A Nightmare Before Christmas, where you are following Sally, and it's after her and Jack get married and how she has to transition into the queen lifestyle. And there's something going on in Halloween Town that she has to figure out, and you learn a lot of backstory about Sally and everything. So if you loved A Nightmare Before Christmas and you want a continuation into that world, definitely pick this one up. I absolutely adored this. It's not very thick, so you can get through it rather quickly, but it's definitely a light, fun-hearted read where it gets you into that fall vibe and gets you transitioned into spooky season in October. The next book that I have is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Now, this doesn't have any representation of fall per se, but the reason why I put it on here is because this is kind of like a loose retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but you're in like 1920s Shanghai, and you're following the two characters that come from two different houses that are warring against each other, and they fall in love. But what I loved about this is it's so unique, so well thought out. The story flows so well, and it's a way to transport yourself out of, the rainy times or the cooler times where you just want to curl up, get a blanket, get something hot to drink, and just be transported into a different world. Chloe Gong does an amazing job with these books. There's a duet, These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, and then there is a spinoff, which is Foul Lady Fortune, and then Foul Huntsman, I believe, comes out later this year. So much to read in this world. If you love different retellings, or you want to be transported to a different time, this is a really good book. It'll get you out of the slump of the weather changing and having to stay inside and it getting darker and stuff. You can just transport yourself into 1920s Shanghai. The next book that I have for you does deal with vampires, and that is Shadow Kissed by Rebecca L. Garcia. Now, with this one, again, the vampires are ruthless. There is a lot of trigger warnings in here, like blood play, different things like that. So definitely check those before you dive into this. But this is a vampire romance. It's dark, very, very dark. So the first one doesn't get too dark, but there's 4 books in this series, and as you go on, the darker and the spicier it gets. So, like I said, definitely check trigger warnings before you dive into this world. But you are following our female main character, and she is trying to grieve of her boyfriend who, committed suicide previously. And the vampires end up overrunning their town. So she ends up getting whisked away to San Morte, which is the vampire world. And she has to traverse the politics, the court. She finds out, what her whole role is in this. So it's really, really good. It gives you those fall spooky vibes. It gives you the, I just want to curl up and not do anything type of vibes. And you go into a whole new world that is very well thought out, very fleshed out. The story works very well, and there is romance in here. But like I said, the first book really isn't super dark or super spicy, but as you go on, it does get that way. So if you definitely want a spicy book, start picking up this series. The next one is, if you don't want anything dark, but you want something very whimsical, very fairy tale like, and you haven't read it yet, definitely read Once Upon a Broken Heart. Now, you do not have to read the Caraval series before you read this. However, I liked it because you get more backstory on the Prince of Hearts, but you don't have to do that because you get enough of it in this book. But this is a very whimsical fairy tale type of book where It's not scary. There's really not gore. There's really not anything, but it's a very heartfelt romance where you are traversing the world. There's a mystery element to it. You're trying to figure out what is going on in the world. Why are things happening the way that they are? How is the Prince of Hearts involved? And just a whole slew of different things, but it is something that, will make you smile, something that will make you, just be very warm and fuzzy inside. So if you don't want anything dark, you want something lighter, definitely pick up Once Upon a Broken Heart. I feel like this would be a great fall read because it just gives you those fall vibes. The next one that I have for you is Dirty Lying Fairies by Sabrina Blackberry. Now, this was a Wattpad book before it got published, and it is a series, but you don't follow the fairies the whole time. The second book is called Dirty Lying Dragons, I believe, and the series is called, I can't ever remember what it's called. I think it's called the Enchanted series. Yeah, the Enchanted Fates series. So this is book 1. And this is kind of your whimsical, traditional fairy romance, but it is an urban fantasy because it is in modern times. And you are in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, and you are following our female main character who knows nothing about the Fae, and all of a sudden she's thrusted into this world. She's the key to a few different things that are going on. She ends up being part of the Winter Court, so what better fall vibe into transitioning into the colder times. This is a really good Fae romance. It doesn't have a whole lot of dark elements to it, so it kind of is on the same line as Once Upon a Broken Heart, where you can get just kind of a whimsical type of fantasy where you're not dealing with a lot of darkness, but you're also getting that fantasy world. I highly suggest this one. I absolutely adored it. So it's kind of like a standalone. You don't have to continue on in the series, but there are other books that are coming out. Like I said, Dirty Lying Dragons is out now. I haven't read it yet, but I'm pretty sure that some of the characters in here might make an appearance, but it's not going to be necessary for you to read this book and then the next one. So if you don't like fairies and you want to read dragons, pick up her dragons book. The last one is for all of you girlies out there that love a good dark romance, and that's not fantasy or anything like that. And whenever I say dark, please check trigger warnings before you dive into this book, because it deals with stalking, it deals with sexual assault, it deals with so many heavy-hitting topics that I didn't almost put it on this list because there are so many trigger warnings, but I wanted to give you something that wasn't a fantasy in case if you are not a fantasy reader. And that is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This book is going to put you into all of the fall/spooky vibes because you are dealing with Adeline, who is our female main character, and she's living in a house that she believes is haunted. She's being stalked by someone. There is pedophilia rings in here. There is a whole slew of different things. So like I said, if you are not a traditional dark romance reader, but you want to dive into it, I don't know if this will be the book for you to transition into it with, but if you are a dark romance reader and you love everything dark, definitely pick up Haunting Adeline. It is absolutely amazing. You will devour this book in one sitting. So I highly suggest this one for all my dark romance girlies out there. So that is all 8 books. Let me see if I can put them up here for you. Here you go. Those are all 8 books that I suggest that you could start transitioning into the fall vibes. Some of them, are lighthearted and whimsical. Some of them are extremely dark. They may get you into the mood for spooky season coming up next month. But definitely let me know below any of these books that you have read or any suggestions that you have for me to read to get into the fall vibes. But I'm going to go ahead and go, everyone. I hope you enjoyed all of these suggestions. Definitely check my description below for all of those links, and I will see you next time. Bye.